Good evening, everyone. This is Jen Bonet with Creative Coast, and tonight is Entrepreneurs Night. It is September 10th, 2020, strange year that it is. And this is, I think, our fourth or fifth Entrepreneurs Night online via Zoom. I'm missing my wine. I'm still drinking water, unfortunately, because normally we'd be serving wine and beer here at our lovely space, and we will get back there one day. But in the meantime, we're just trying to get the story of entrepreneurs, technology entrepreneurs in Savannah, Georgia, those that have launched and grown and are getting it done, so that when we look back from all of this 2 years, 3 years from now, and the tech scene is booming because of the activities that we've been taking during COVID-19, and the idea that people want to move to cities like Savannah, that will have the origin stories of the companies that were here already well documented. Sorry, I had to close my door because I could hear it coming from Mark's computer as well. Could hear myself talking in two places. So today I am pleased to have Rob Lingle with Oakworks software company with me. So say hi, Rob.
Hey there.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't we start with you just kind of introducing yourself and telling everyone a little bit about your background, maybe pre-Oakworks. What were you doing? How'd you?
Sure. So I'm from Savannah. Grew up around here. Went to Georgia Tech and studied computer engineering up there. And then just ended up more in the software world once I got out. Worked for a Department of Defense contractor for 12 years or so. So I led development efforts over there. The Army was kind of our main customer, and they are full of processes that need to be improved. Just a lot of paperwork, a lot of just ugly stuff that's grown up in a big organization over a lot of time. And so it's kind of a fun exercise to go in there and talk to everybody and figure out a better path and then start building it for them. And that's more or less kind of what we do at Oakworks. So, yeah.
So in your prior career, prior to starting Oakworks, were you in Savannah or were you elsewhere?
The office was actually in Rincon, but I was in Savannah. So yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. I did not know that they had a office of engineers out there.
Yeah, so it was a small couple of guys that left the Corps of Engineers downtown, and they were both based in Rincon, so that's where I ended up.
Awesome. So tell us about Oakworks and how you and your co-founder Steve met and launched this business.
Steve and I met in some kind of an interim between high school and college. Hung out for a little while, and then we kind of went our separate ways. And but we bumped into each other several years ago and started chatting. And he had gone to animation school, and I had gone to the DoD contractor for a while. He ended up in software, and so we were kind of in a similar place. He was doing a lot of freelancing. And I wanted to work with newer technology and in the private sector. And so, yeah, I think one thing led to another. And so we started Oakworks. That was it. Just kind of a mission to build better systems for starting with companies here in town. And yeah.
Awesome. And how do you guys, I always find the co-founder story interesting because so many entrepreneurs I meet are leery of finding that partner, that co-founder, and or have trouble finding it. And that's why I always want to know the origin story of how you met. But then the other thing is, okay, now you're in a relationship with this person, you're growing your company with this person. So how do you decide to divide up the responsibilities? How are things broken out? How do you guys manage the company together?
Yeah, great question. Something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I mean, it's relationships are work, any kind of them. We don't have neat divisions everywhere. He tends to be, if it's going to be more artistic, designy. That is Steve. I'm gonna tend more towards engineering, architecture specialties, and then I tend to handle most of the just paperwork and administrative stuff of the business. Neither of us, I think, really is great at marketing, and that's something I've been feeling more and more lately, and trying to figure out how to get stronger there, I guess. We're both engineers. We both like working on the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've done that a few times in different businesses I've had, and without that person that really thrives on marketing and sales, you sometimes end up with your work schedules looking a lot like this because you're so far in the weeds on a project and solving that customer's problem that nobody's looking 3 months down the road to say who's going to be the next customer.
Yeah, and I mean, that is where my mind has been a lot lately, because that is exactly how it looks. I think it took longer than it should have to really get through my head that if I am the one doing the work day in and day out, nobody is thinking ahead. Nobody is finding those next people. And so, I think I've been doing a better job of getting out of the work and delegating and bringing in juniors to making sure they're good and working on our processes, especially in this remote environment, but making sure that they're making progress and that they're not stuck. I think there is kind of a challenge there because it's easier to just check in with people in an office. And that would be valuable right now to me. But yeah, I think trying to do a better job of bringing in the employees to do the work, building their skill sets, and then moving on to do other things has been the focus lately.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about where you are there from the workers. So you've got, you have some junior folks on board right now, or you're 1099ing people? And
yeah, so we're pretty small right now. There are 4 of us. So we've got 3 of us on W-2 and 1 1099. And I guess I'm leaning more towards 1099s or partnering with agencies that just have more people. Because with the wave you're talking about as far as just business to be done, I mean, it's hard to scale people in and out. All of our projects tend to be a little bit different. I think I would still like to see us move to a place where we have a product or 2 products, and those are the things that we work on day in and day out. And I think that's much easier to kind of roadmap and plan for. There is basically one onboarding, and then the developers you bring in can go. And right now, we have to onboard them to every project essentially. And I don't think that's I don't want to over exaggerate that. There's a lot of commonality between our projects, but you know what I mean. There are some peculiarities.
Yeah, obviously each business is a little different. Even businesses in the same industry use the same product differently when you have a core product. So that's got to be challenging. At any given point in time, how many clients do you have with active projects?
Probably 4 or 5 would be typical. And then usually that's going to be like 1 or 2 big people, and then others that are on some sort of a maintenance mode. Something like that. And then we've had a few that have just had to step away because of COVID. And then we've seen some transition because of COVID, more e-commerce stuff, less just application development.
Interesting. I was wondering how COVID had impacted you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was the 2 big impacts. The 2 customers that have been impacted, I think, have been Kelly Tours, so they're tourism, and their main business is taking grade schoolers to DC, right? Nobody wants to be on a bus now. Nobody wants to rent Kelly Tours buses from them, other tour companies. So, that's tough. They had been planning to fire up a trolley service, and we were starting to build an app for that. So there was all kinds of new exciting stuff happening at the beginning of the year. I mean, just with them, I think we had 2 new projects and the ongoing that we're looking to get started. They're gone. Georgia Ports, you know, I think we were making some progress with them, and that's taken a hit. So yeah,
They're busy though, right?
they are busy.
They're busy.
Yeah.
Um, number 1 port for exports in the country last month, right? So, so I want to back up a second and go back to like when you launched. Talk about finding that first customer, or did you know when you and Steve joined forces to form Oakworks? Did you already have a customer? Were you out there seeking a customer?
Sort of. I mean, I think it's weird looking back. I'm like, what were we thinking? Who did we think we were going to talk to? And some of it was people that Steve already had known of, and so we were able to build those into bigger things. Kelly Tours, I know through family, and he knew through he was doing a little project for them, and what we ended up doing with them was suggesting that they don't need a little project, that they're opening more offices, and their systems were kind of one at a time, remote desktop in, manage a glorified spreadsheet together, and so we were able to talk them into, you know, let's do a roadmap. Let's talk to your different offices, and let's talk to the staffers here, and let's figure out the main problems that you're having with the system, and what can we build that would make your life better. And so, and that's what we ended up building is it's really a platform for their back office. It's got, you know, maybe 5% of it is customer facing, but most of it is for them to do the logistics of running their trips.
Very cool.
Yep.
To talk a little bit about like who you're like, that seems based on your previous experience, it seems like that type of opportunity is your ideal customer.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think what I kind of see in my mind is that company who's kind of entering mid-market. They've been around a little while, and they've been around just long enough that their operational headaches need some investment. And so that's where we can come in, and either helping them find something off the shelf, you know, if that exists, or helping them wire that up, or usually just building something from scratch. And I say that, and that was definitely the original vision. We have moved more towards e-commerce over time, and because of COVID, I feel like, and so on the e-commerce side, well, I mean, I guess it's kind of similar. We've ended up doing, you know, there's different levels of e-commerce. You could do a really simple store that is, you just kind of put a theme on it and connect it to payments, and you're good to go. And our customers for e-commerce tend to be a little more involved, so they might want some integrations that are not off the shelf. Savannah-based has wanted a loyalty program built that will interoperate between their website and their POS, the point of sale system that they use in store. And so that's actually about to roll out. And that's one of the things that we're hoping to kind of productize and sell to other people who are in a similar position to them.
Excellent. Excellent. I think that's very interesting. I do think, you know, I look at Savannah and the opportunities, you know, e-commerce is only growing because of COVID-19, and actually so many of our small vendors in town have no e-commerce presence. Even though they've got a storefront, they don't have any e-commerce, even for their own products, right? So there's an opportunity there. And then with port growing, you know, and it becomes a very easy place for us to ship things into or out of. I mean, It just makes sense that e-commerce should be fundamental to, you know, a vision of Savannah as a small but vibrant tech hub. E-commerce is going to play, e-commerce and logistics are going to play very large components of that. So I think, you know, I love the fact that that's one of your areas of expertise. Now, I already know the answer to this. You guys did not seek any outside funding.
Nope.
It's bootstrapped, self-funded.
Yep. Yeah.
Regrets, hopes for the future, thoughts?
I think what I have in mind to try next is to take on that EIDL loan from COVID and use that as a way to help us invest towards a bigger stuff of our own, because it has typically been more or less glorified freelancers. I feel like we're kind of looking for customers and we're implementing stuff for them, and we'll probably get a maintenance thing out of it. I feel like there are some apps that we could improve on and we could build. So that's kind of hope for the future, is to take this weird moment and get a product out there.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart move. I don't think most people think about it that way. In fact, you and I kind of had that conversation as a sidebar in an earlier conversation. But I mean, even the Creative Coast took the EIDL loan just because we likely are changing our business model. We're a membership organization that has office space that nobody's using, right? A desk that nobody's using, and hosts events that people are doing on Zoom and don't want to pay for anymore. So, we needed a runway to figure out what the path forward looks like, and we're figuring that out slowly but surely. But it's how do you use that money to pivot and strengthen the business model moving forward. And it's not free. It is a loan, obviously, but it's almost free for the life of, for the whole term. And if you can take that money and turn it into something that's more scalable and more stable. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's that fearful kind of freedom thing of running a business. Like we've got to make that call, and we've got to say that's how we're going to do this, and we trust that we can build a product here that works. What I've always kind of assumed is true is people who are solving their own problem will solve it best, and so it's been sort of the goal, and we'll still get one of these off the ground, I'm sure, but is the goal to take, if we build a tour platform for a tour bus company, that's a good product. And they've been using it for years. They've made millions of dollars on it. If we build a loyalty program for a store that we have a close relationship with, and it meets their needs, then that's a good product. It's harder for me to imagine that there's an app that is needed somewhere. And so I'll make that. That makes sense.
I'm not really supposed to coach you, but just a little bit, right? So that's what customer discovery is about, right? That's what figuring out, can you leverage what you're building for Savannah-B company to go after every single company that uses that POS system and sell them this integration component, right? I don't know, maybe, but that's emails and chats and lots of conversations with people to determine whether or not the market's big enough for that.
Yep.
And this is a good time for doing that kind of work, because now we're all doing it this way. So, so my next question is really about, and I think I know the answer to this one too. I always like to think, okay, at what point did you be like, oh my gosh, this thing's actually going to work. We're going to be able to support ourselves and our families as entrepreneurs doing what we love to do, and have an impact on our customers and possibly the world. Wow. You feel confident about that?
Barely most days. I mean, I feel like it really clicked when we sold the deal to Kelly Tours. When we had that first down payment on a system, we'd already done the plan at this point. So the first down payment on a system that they're going to transition to, they're going to be using this for their business. A subset of it at first, and then it'll expand. That felt pretty good.
And the tour industry will come back. It's just patience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
A company that I met with earlier does construction software for airports. So they went through March going, oh my God, what's going to happen, right?
yep.
Everyone's in the same boat having these, oh my God, what's happened? But I mean, we will come out of this, right? And we will get back to travel and we will congregate in person again and enjoy that.
For sure. Yeah. And I hope the people running those kind of companies believe that, because I'm actually trying to reach out to them and say, while we're down, don't you want to rethink your internal structure? Do
Yeah.
you want to optimize
Yeah.
now?
No, that would be great. It's a good opportunity. All right. So kind of switching gears a little bit, talking, what's your biggest challenge? What is your biggest challenge, Ben?
Marketing. I
Marketing.
mean, really, yeah, just making those connections and following up on them, staying with it, cold calling and cold emailing and that sort of thing. Just does not seem to come easy. There's always something more interesting to do than that.
That's two engineers for you.
And that's two engineers for you. But I'm very aware of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a sales job for a while and I would always get pulled into the coding problems or challenges. And so what I decided was I had to set a number of phone calls that I had to make every day before I could go look at the code. So it's like, okay, I have to talk to 10 people before I'm allowed to touch code. And as soon as I got those 10 people done, then I could touch the code. And at least I was making 10 phone calls a day.
Yeah. That's a great idea. I might borrow that one.
So one of the questions I always like to ask everybody is, what does success look like for them? Because I think success is very personalized. We all have our own view of what success looks like for ourselves and for our company. Yeah. So, what does success look like for you, Rob, and also for the company?
Yeah, man, good question. I mean, I think at this point, success for me is having the company that supports my basic needs. I mean, I don't need a whole lot. I think being able to work for the company is part of just success for me. It is the ability to call the shots and set my schedule and prioritize my own stuff. There's always a customer, I guess, and they're your boss to some extent. But this has been big for me. For the company, it's going to be launching a product. It's going to be growing the team, and having project managers and other people to do the stuff that it just takes up my time, and is interesting and is more interesting to me sometimes than tracking down deals. But yeah, I think that's it. I look forward to the time when we're big enough to have like a reading group and we're all giving each other great ideas and really doing the whole teamwork thing. Because right now we're a small group of guys making software happen.
Very cool. Very cool. I do like small groups though. I've managed 300 people, so
Yep.
I like small teams that work together well and have fun. And I think that's important about how you think about creating culture as you move forward and being intentional in the culture that you set, which you can start with today in how you set things up today. Talk a little bit about, what are your preferred tools? What languages are you guys coding in? What do you use? What's your project management tool of choice? All that sort of stuff. Do you use a CRM? For those people that are listening or view this in the future, maybe looking for tools.
No, we don't use a CRM. We should. We've been using Asana for project management. We do sort of Kanban style with weekly sprints. We do stand-up calls every morning. And we're, getting better at keeping those quick. And then everybody go off and do your thing and we'll check in later. On the I think that's most of the kind of the project management stack. We use things like Harvest has been useful for tracking time, and Rippling has been really good for HR. And they handle, when we onboard somebody, they will set up their accounts for G Suite email, get them into our GitHub repositories, and set all that stuff up for us. So that's really been useful.
That's right.
I think he's the guy who started PeopleSoft, I want to say.
I've heard of him. I just haven't checked him out yet.
Yep. So that one's been good. And then on the application side, I feel like everything is JavaScript these days. And so that is the majority of our work. Which, I mean, just over the course of my career, it's been really interesting to see JavaScript as the ugly duckling just grow up. And I mean, it was the thing that nobody wanted to use when I got started. Now it's everywhere. So a lot of React and React Native for mobile apps. And then we tend to use NoSQL databases like Mongo.
Cool.
Yeah. VS Code is the best thing that Microsoft ever did, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a simple, powerful editor, that kind of follows in a line of simple, powerful editors that have been useful for me. But I mean, now some of the stuff has gotten so good. I spent a good part of the day today doing a live share with one of our developers. And so we're remote, but we're both sharing a text editor, working on the code and working through things better than if you were right next to each other. So things like that are pretty cool.
That's cool. Huh. Check that out. I haven't coded in a while though. All right. I have one more question, then I'm going to open it up to people in the audience. So my last question is always the same, and it's, what tips do you have for our entrepreneurs and or aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience? So if you could give one or two pieces of advice for somebody that's looking to start a business.
Yep.
What is that advice?
So I guess a few things you mentioned earlier, like that some people have difficulty finding a good partnership, and put thought into that. Do think about, I mean, Steve and I are good friends, and I think we're both good at what we do, and we've been lucky in a lot of ways, because we weren't like, I don't feel like evaluating each other as business partners. We were good friends, and I admired the stuff he did, and we had good conversations. And this was something a direction we both wanted to move. And so we decided to move in this direction together. But I do think it's worth figuring out, your particular strengths and weaknesses, and what would be a good counterbalance for you. And then I guess along those lines, I don't think I really thought enough or knew enough about like what it actually means to run a business. I think for me, it was really just doing things on my own terms, using a stack that I like, and that sort of a thing. So I guess in a way it was sort of, I'll get to be a developer on my own terms, but that's not really a good framing for a business at all. Building a business is going to mean doing the marketing part, building those relationships, and then continuing to do that. I mean, obviously you need to be able to lead a good team, and I think it's useful to have good sort of technical knowledge. It makes you a good judge of things. But as fast as possible, I feel like the goal is to package up your knowledge and your experience and share that down to developers, ultimately to your customers, right? But yeah, if you're going to go into a business doing the thing that you really like and that you're good at, know that you should not spend your time doing that.
Yeah, I've always struggled a little bit with, I sometimes in the early stages of the companies give myself the worst tasks. Right. So I'm always the last, I'm the person that gives up customer service emails last. And there's a couple of things about customer service emails, though, is that they keep you really close to the customers, right? If you're getting every email that comes in from a customer and they're bitching about the product, you know exactly what's wrong with the product. So I've always had a hard time kind of letting go of that kind of stuff, which is not things that I'm necessarily good at, but it does actually keep me in touch with the customer. So.
Yeah, no, that's really valuable. Yep.
Mark, you have a couple of questions here. Why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself and ask?
Yes, Rob, just a couple of questions regarding software integrations that you play for workflow automation, for example, Zapier, and e-commerce. Shopify is a huge application that is...
Hey, Mark, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Sorry.
Okay, just have a, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I have a couple of questions regarding the types of software integrations that you deploy. One is for workflow automation. Do you utilize Zapier at all? And second is e-commerce. Shopify is a huge application these days that's very strong in e-commerce.
Yep. We've used Zapier some. I'm getting more interested in, and I guess we've used other things like CodeShip. So CodeShip is what we would use to keep an eye on the GitHub repositories, and when we push to develop, then deploy it to staging, and it would sort of automate those things. Those are now, I mean, GitHub Actions are taking over for most of that. So those aren't typical things we use for customers. Although, well, we use Zapier sometimes for customers, but yeah, GitHub Actions, I would say, is a big automation thing for us internally. And then Asana has pretty good automations for moving things through progress. And then on e-commerce, we've done a little bit of Shopify, but really most of our work and all of our, I think, big development has been on BigCommerce. Make sure I said that right. We do some Shopify. BigCommerce is where we spend most of our time. Yep.
I had muted myself for that because I had that in stereo. Any other questions from the audience? Rob, I want to really applaud you for surviving COVID. I mean, there's so many people I talk to that are not going to make it, and some of our friends that have been in this community for a long time are not going to make it. So first, I have to applaud you and Steve for keeping the business afloat and making smart moves during that. And then I think, I have to applaud you and say that I think you're really smart to look at using the idle loan as a way to kind of reposition your company for moving forward even stronger. So congrats on that. And
yeah,
I really
applaud
applaud you.
Confidence. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right. If there's no other questions, then last words, Rob. Last piece of advice.
I got nothing. Y'all stay safe. Market, go out and meet people, have coffee, safely and all. But do that.
Awesome.
Call somebody up. Call somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. Go have lunch.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks. Thank you, Rob. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And we'll be back here next Thursday for the women in the audience for She Hustles next Thursday evening. And then keep an eye on the Creative Coast calendar. We're still doing at least weekly educational lunch and learns through Zoom and keeping active with our events. Our space is open in a very restricted format, so Creative Coast members are welcome to come down and use the space. We have a max capacity of 7 people co-working, and use the conference space and use the conference rooms and stuff as well. So if people want to get out of their office for a little bit, please reach out to me and we can talk about getting you involved with the Creative Coast. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.